Sup gamers, Randy Potato here with a guide to the road fights in Darkest Dungeon 2 and the two types of enemies you can confront in these fights, the Gaunt and Pillager. These enemies are found in normal road fights, special repair fights, and even filling out a regional encounter mash. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to subscribe. I post new videos every day. And join my Patreon or become a YouTube member for early access to my upcoming videos. First up, the Gaunt type foes. The first and easiest enemy is the Lost Soul, with his pitiful 11 HP and no DBR. They have only two moves. From the front, they can use Chomp against ranks 1 or 2, with 2 to 4 damage, a 75% chance of stress, and a 5% chance of disease. From the back row, they can use Filthy Morsel against ranks 1 or 2, dealing 2 to 3 damage, and a 2-point blight, while moving forward 1. The Lost Soul is relatively harmless, but the stress and disease chance in conjunction with their lowly HP means they should generally be your first target, as they can be one-shot with even a mid-level DPS. If they're stuck in the back row, you can ignore them, but they will move forward eventually. The Widow again has 11 HP and no DBR. From the back row, they have Gruesome Reflection and any rank attack that does 1 to 2 damage, a 50% chance of stress, and applies a horror debuff. From ranks 2 or 3, they can use Desperate Grab against any rank, dealing 2 to 3 damage, pulling the target 1 rank, and stunning them. And from rank 1, they only have Don't Look, and attack against ranks 1 or 2, dealing 1 to 2 damage, and applying a blind and a stress. These are among the most obnoxious enemies in the game, applying a boatload of stress, stunning, and even blinding. They have annoying attacks in any rank, so moving them isn't an option, but they are easy enough to kill, and like the Lost Soul should be your first target, though they usually spawn back row, so they're a bit trickier to reach. The Urchin is a cheater with 12 HP, 5 speed, and no DBR. They will always spawn in the back row and start combat with Song of Shadows, a self buff that stealths them, moves them back 1, and adds a crit token. When they are stealthed and in the back row, they will use Haunting Melody, dealing 2 to 5 damage, moving them forward 2, and also applying 2 stress in addition to the crit. When in the front row, they can only use Skulking Step, hitting ranks 1 or 2 with 2 to 3 damage, 5% chance of disease, and moving Urchin back 1. With the guaranteed crit and absurd stress damage, this should always be target number 1. There are a few ways of dealing with this enemy. They do nothing in the front row, though they can move back, so fast pullers can decimate them, and super high DPS teams can delete the front row and then remove the corpses to disable his big nuke. Back row AoE can deal with the Urchin even when he's stealthed, and with his low HP, a Plague Grenade and Helping of Spaghetti makes quick work of him. A very fun strat is to pack de-stealth, such as Vessel's Illumination, and continuously remove his stealth he applies every turn, as he can't Haunting Melody without his stealth active. The Woodsman, aka Runaway's Dear Dead Dad, is a size 2 foe with 34 HP and 25% DBR. From any rank to any rank, he can guard an ally, giving them 2 guard tokens and himself 2 block on a 1-turn cooldown. From any rank, he can also use Carve the Toy, a single target attack usable against the front row, doing 4 to 8 damage, a stress, and 3 bleed. And finally, from the front row, he can use Fell the Tree against ranks 1 or 2, doing a brutal 10 to 14 damage and a 3% chance of disease. The Woodsman is a pretty dangerous enemy, especially when ordained, when he can absolutely nuke you with damage and obnoxious stress. With his guard mechanic, oftentimes you have to focus him down first, though with his low speed, ideally you can just nuke his allies before he acts, giving you a superior action economy advantage. He is quite susceptible to dots, so that's an easy way to melt him down if necessary. You could ask Bonnie, she has some experience. And finally we have the Ghoul, the devastating size 2 cheater returning from Darkest Dungeon 1, with 36 HP, 25% DBR, and spawning a block token every turn. Howl is a full AoE, usable from any rank, applying Horror, lowering your torch, and a 5% chance to inflict the worries on your heroes with a 2-turn cooldown. From any rank, he also has Skull Toss, a cheat move usable against ranks 3 or 4 that deals 3 to 4 damage, 1 to 2 stress, and a stun. And from the front row, he has Rend, a single target attack usable against the front row, dealing 4 to 6 damage, stress, a 3-point bleed, and a 5% chance of disease. The Ghoul is far and away the scariest road fight mash, with every move causing stress, and Howl especially destroying your party with horror if you have no way to clear it. In addition, he has high HP and an absurd free block spawn every round. This tanginess means if he's paired with some baby Gaunts, you should punt them first, and if he's with Woodsman, then he will be annoyingly guarded. But if you can, obviously you nuke this scumbag first. His stress is the only real danger you can face with the Gaunt mashes. Now on to the Pillagers. The Pillager Hatchetman has 15 HP and no DBR. Low blow is usable from the front 3 against the front row, doing 2 to 4 damage, a 2-point bleed, and a 50% chance of adding combo. This combo payoff is called Finishing Blow, usable from the front row against a comboed enemy, dealing 6 to 7 damage and a stress. For rank 4, they can only use Wild Swing, a single target attack against the front row, doing 2 to 3 damage and moving them forward 2. This fool really can't do anything, with even his big wombo combo doing a lowly 1 stress and some cringe damage. He has slightly better HP than the other trash mobs, so you can often leave him for later, and he's easily movable, since he can only hit his combo in the front row. Easy opponent to abuse and stall against. The Pillager Crackshot is a back row specialist with 13 HP and no DBR. From rank 1 specifically, they can use either Front Mortar, a rank 1 nuke dealing 6 to 8 damage, a knockback of 1, and a stun, or Shell Shock, a back row AoE dealing 2 to 3 damage, a chance of stress, and a chance of daze. From ranks 2 to 3, they can use Blister Shot, a single target attack usable against ranks 2 to 4, dealing 2 to 5 damage. As you can tell, the Crackshot's danger is based entirely on positioning. The top priority with a Crackshot in the mash is getting them out of position 4. They're very movable and also quite fragile, so it's rarely a problem, mostly becomes a speed issue. You can also nuke front line and clear corpses to accomplish the same goal. If possible, I prefer pulling them and keeping them last alive to stall on. They do nothing outside of rank 4. The Mongrel is a 13 HP enemy with no DBR. First it has Gnash, a move usable from any rank against ranks 1, 2, or 3, dealing 3 to 6 damage, 1 bleed, and a 15% chance of crit. They can also use Watchdog from any rank to guard any rank, giving themselves a dodge and riposte token. The riposte does 3 to 7 damage, 2 bleed, and a disgusting 30% crit rate. This enemy has the highest chance of one hitting you with his crit rate and dot combo. It's best to rush him down, but with his decent speed, he'll often have his riposte up early, so at the least let a tank roll into it first. Never do it with average or worse HP. The Firemouth has 15 HP and no DBR. From the back 3, he has Breath of Fire, a single target attack usable against any rank, dealing 2 to 4 damage and 3 burn. From the back row, they can use Flash Fire, a front row AoE doing 2 to 3 damage, 2 burn, and a 50% chance of blind. And finally, from the front rank, they have only Flint Strike, a single target attack against the front row that does 2 to 3 damage and moves them back 1. The Firemouth is pretty obnoxious with blind, but otherwise relatively harmless with single target dots. He's also quite vulnerable to movement if you can yank him to rank 1, and in 2 he can only do his single target attack. In general, I find little reason to focus him down, but Pillager comps are weak in general, so sometimes you target him because everyone else sucks. The Implication is a size 2 enemy with 38 HP, no DBR, and spawns in with 2 block plus tokens. It's entirely immune to dots, but can be stunned, moved, or debuffed. They will always start combat with Load Shot, and proceed to use it every other turn. Load Shot moves them back 1 and gives them an additional 2 block plus tokens. Once it loads, the next turn it will do one of 2 things. How many ranks each move affects depends on their positioning. In rank 1, they can only target ranks 1 and 2. In position 2, they target ranks 1 through 3. And in the back, they target all ranks. After the shot is loaded, they will either use Misfire, healing 1 stress on each targeted hero, or they can use Boom, doing 8 to 14 damage and a 50% chance of stress on each targeted hero. My first priority in these fights is to eliminate the adds, since they're easier, and once eliminated you can clear corpses and limit the cannon's range. Blinds are always a good option, of course, and take priority over damaging adds. If you have enough block piercing, rushing the cannon can work too. Like if you have an occultist with Meatball, then it's fine to rush, or if you just have insane damage and can get the turns to line up so you can delete his block after he loads. DOTs are useless here, of course, only used to erase block tokens. If you can't blind him or eliminate him before he acts round 2, which is difficult, then setting up blocks and dodges and moving around is useful to make sure nobody gets nuked who can't take it. And finally, we have the traitor, the Antiquarian fight. She wants what we have and will not be denied. She has 26 HP and 25% DBR. With her allies alive, she will have 2 actions per round, starting out with Protect Me, a cowardly buff that forces one of her allies to guard her by applying 2 guard tokens and a block plus token on the target, while forcing them to move forward 3 if they're Hatchetmen or Mongrels, and back 3 if they're Crackshots or Firemouths. With her other turn, she can use Festering Vapors from the back row, a cheating AoE that does 2 to 3 damage, 2 blight, and a 75% chance of stress, while giving herself dodge. Flash Powder is a single target usable from the back 3 against any rank, dealing no damage but adding blind, daze, stun on combo, and moving her back 1 rank. From any rank, she can use her AoE buff Invigorating Vapors, which gives her party dodge and a 25% chance of strength. And finally, from the front row, she can use Nervous Stab, a front row attack doing 6 to 7 damage and giving her dodge plus while moving her back. This is an extremely tricky combat that will almost always take more than normal to complete. With the guard every turn and the high HP and DBR, it's almost never correct to rush Antiquarian. Rather, you should just eliminate her allies, since once she's in the front row, she loses most of her edge. Corpse Clear is pretty important to accomplish this task. It's important to note that she'll move Crackshots back with Protect Me, so simply pulling them isn't enough most of the time. You'll want to generally eliminate them first. This is usually a very rewarding fight, unless it's an urgent repair fight, of course, where you'll get a boatload of relics and usually a unique trinket that interacts with your relic and bauble count. Overall, the road fight enemy pool is pretty simple, but knowing which ones cause the most stress and from what positions, Alt View helps if you forget, is still important to make sure you get through these fights easily without taking damage, allowing yourself to be fully charged for the difficult fights in the game. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to subscribe. I post new videos every day. And become a YouTube member or join my Patreon for early access to my upcoming content.